Let us pray. Lord, unseen yet ever near us, help us to know your presence and to believe in you. Lift our hearts and minds that we may be at home with you in your kingdom and enjoy your love forever. Teach us to come to you in the silence, to make room for you in our lives, to offer you our loving hearts, that we may know your presence, that we may experience your power, that we may accept your peace. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Can I remind members of the need to respect each other, and I will continue to chair these meetings fairly and to show impartiality. Likewise, members of the public are welcome, but should not be aware that they should not interrupt the proceedings, as disruption may result in moving from the public gallery. As this is the budget meeting and one of the most important meetings of the year, we need to give it our full concentration, as we owe this to our residents when setting the council tax. All group leaders have been offered separate briefings about the budget. The rules of conduct for the meeting have been circulated in advance of the meeting, and copies are on your seats. Apologies for absence.
Apologies for absence include Councillor Carmichael, Councillor Lynn Holland, Councillor Maiden, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Whiteside. Are there any further apologies this evening?
Councillor Talbot.
Thank you.
Okay, to the process I'm moving to one there, please.
Thank you.
Councillor Goulton.
Thank you.
Minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of January 2019. I will move the acceptance of these as a correct record.
Second,
Thank you, Rita. Can I put the minutes to the vote? All those in favour of accepting the minutes, please show. That is carried, thank you. Mayor's announcements. Death of Mayor of Angers, Jean-Claude Antonini. It is with deep regret that I refer to the death on the 8th of February 2019 of the former Mayor of Angers, Jean-Claude Antonini. He was Mayor from 1998 to 2012 and President of Angers from 2001 to 2014. The funeral service took place on 13th of February 2019 in Angers, and our thoughts go to the family. I now invite members of the council to express their condolences in respect of Jean-Claude. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, when we received the letter from the current Mayor of Angers to say that Monsieur Antonini Jean-Claude had the former mayor died, it also contained the news, which I didn't know, that his predecessor, Jean Monnier, had also died. Jean Monnier was the mayor from 1977 to 1998, the longest ever mayor of Angers in its history. And he was the mayor who arranged the twinning with Wigan. He came over to Wigan, and like what this also, they agreed to twin, so I think we should note his passing as well. Jean-Claude was not just a colleague in twinning for me, he became a friend. Although he didn't have a very auspicious start. He was coming as a delegate in 1993 And Joe Clark, as some people remember, was our mayor, and Joe was also chairman of Manchester Transport at the time. So we thought we'd give him a trip on with the transport being attached. But Jean-Claude didn't think it was very interesting, so he complained. So I said, well, you don't need to come. Anyway, he did come. We got on very well. He enjoyed the trip, and when Joe and I went back to Angers in September for the twinning, we got invited to his home, which is close to the centre of Angers, in an old house built about 1700. And he took me to his wine cellar. And believe me, his wine cellar was fantastic. Had a very good quantity, but the quality was obviously first class. It was in it was a cellar. And when the house was built, to show the kind of problems of the servants at the time who were just stuck in this cellar and lived there, they actually carved their lives into the stone, because the stone is called tufa, it's quite soft. They carved this little message about what life is like for them. So it's no wonder that France went through a revolution not long after that. So when Jean-Claude became mayor in 1998, it was the same Madam Mayor, his priority became actually to see what he'd seen in Munster, to build a tramway system in Angers. So he set about getting the money lined up, getting the route lined up, so he was re-elected in 2001. But by the time we got the 2008 election, the 7-year cycles in France, it was right in the middle of them building this tramway. And we know it's not always the most popular time in the world when you're halfway through a big project. People think it's terrible. So when he stood for re-election in 2008, he got a majority in the second ballot. He got 50.6% of the votes, and the right-wing candidate got 49.4%. So John just squeaked in. He became a great advocate early on for green strategies and made Angers University could a green city, and the tramway was obviously an important part of that. He was a great internationalist too, and he extended the twinning arrangements with Angers. They'd already twinned with a number of European cities, but he took them further. He took them to Spain, he took them to the USA, to Houston and China. So he really did expand all of that. And of course, he wanted to run his city well. He was president of the regional committee, all the smaller counties around Angers, and he tried to get them into line with that. So, Jean-Claude, in his private, before he became mayor, as mayor in France, was normally full-time. He was a doctor, a GP, in Angers, and he's one of those doctors who enjoys a good life and didn't really seem to serve himself with any of the do's and don'ts that sometimes doctors have. So very rarely did I see him there's a cigarette in his mouth, and so as you might imagine, he did like to have a drink or so. When we were at the training visits, he'd often ask me to come in to have a private meeting with him in his little office at the town hall. We'd do that, we'd talk about very interesting things for a couple of hours, and then the meeting would finish, and we'd always have the opportunity then to successfully toast our twinning arrangements at whatever time of day it happened to be. Sound a bit early. He said that, I think it's actually 2013 he stepped down, not 2012, but he did step down and replaced by Fred Batiste. So I saw less of him then after that, but he was always great company. He taught me lots of things. I learned lots of things about mutual issues, about running towns, what we should do and so on. He also taught me a very interesting thing that some of you probably don't know, is that it's very acceptable to chill some red wine. For me, certain kind of wine, but showing it actually does improve. Now, I wouldn't have known that with the guidance from John Claude. As I say, he was just great coming to be with. He took us out once to a restaurant in the middle of Angers, and he and another friend of mine, Daniel, had a row about the wine, but whether this wine was drinkable or not, they were arguing with each other. Eventually, he sent it back in case it wasn't drinkable, and the restaurant was quite happy for them to do that. I'd say he was a very progressive person. In Angers, he achieved what. If you go to Angers, you can see that. And when he retired, you saw it, I think, probably in the summer. They have these official receptions in the room called the Salon d'Honneur. And around the walls, the portraits of former mayors of Angers. So I asked my friend Dan, I said, why is Jean-Claude's portrait not up here? And he kind of laughed at me. He said, well, there are two qualifications to get onto this wall. One is you'd be a former mayor, but two, you have to be dead. So Jean-Claude and Jean Monnier can both have a portrait portrayed now on that wall of honour. And certainly I'll miss Jean-Claude, and I did, when I learned the news, I did have a little celebratory drink to say thank you for the wonderful friendship you've given me.
Thank you, Councillor. At this point, may I ask those present to stand for a moment as a mark of respect for Jean Claude Anthony. Thank you. Community Engagement Award winner, Keep Britain Tidy Awards. Can I congratulate Wigan Council on being awarded the Community Engagement Award winners at the recent Keep Britain Tidy Awards. Many communities now feel empowered to take responsibility for improving the quality of their local environment. Well done again, Team of Wigan. Declarations of interest. In accordance with guidance issued by the DCLG in September 2013, members who are council taxpayers, own properties, or are tenants in the borough do not need to declare a DPI in the setting of the council tax, since these do not materially affect their interest in the land. This does not apply to those persons who are more than 2 months in arrears with council tax. Members should know their personal interest for the following: school governors, Wigan and Lee Housing Board, Inspiring Healthy Lifestyle Board, members of Transport for Greater Manchester, Parish Councillor Ivana, Lee Sports Village, Development Company. Members are asked to consider other DPLs for the purpose of this meeting, and that any other personal and prejudicial interest, you will have to leave the room at the relevant part of the meeting. If there are any further declarations, then please fill out the relevant form if you need to declare an interest at this meeting, and return this to Christine at the end of the meeting. Updates from Cabinet Portfolio holders. Retirement of Chief Executive Donna Hall, CBE. I invite the leader to pay tribute at this point to the work and commitment of Donna Hall, CBE. Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I really went into all the awards that this council has won during Donna's term as Chief Executive, we would extend the meeting by at least half an hour, to say the least. But I think we've been very privileged, and I've said it on more than one occasion now, to have had Donna Hall as our Chief Executive, particularly through the period that local government's gone through, certainly since 2010. And I think it just shows Donna's leadership as Chief Executive and some of the accolades that this council has won. And on top of that, there were personal tributes that Donna got and personal awards that Donna got, many of which she was very proud, certainly the Northern Women's most powerful woman in the North. And certainly I know her campaign that she launched back in 2015 with support of a lot of female members of this council and that believed in her campaign had significance to Donna because of what she stood for and what she believed. Donna didn't shy away from confrontation even when necessary, and she certainly was a very proud Northern woman, a strong woman and someone who came into this council scheduled to make change, and along with Peter in his leadership, changed the council significantly in terms of how we deliver things in a time of austerity. And I think we should place on record our thanks to Donna, because the legacy she left behind, certainly the staff that she selected and served alongside, have a lot of memories of what Donna achieved on their behalf as well. And I'd like to place on record tonight my support, my thanks for everything that Donna Hall did for this council during her period as Chief Executive. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Constitutional issues. Appointment of Head of Paid Services. The Council is requested to approve the recommendation of the Appointment Ad Hoc Committee to appoint Alison Mackenzie-Follen to the post of Council's Head of Paid Service, with effect from the date of the Council meeting. Is the recommendation moved?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move that. I certainly think we've made an excellent choice in picking Alison to be our new Chief Executive, and I all know that this council will go from strength to strength with Alison as our Chief Executive, and I'm happy to move it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is that seconded?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I wholeheartedly endorse the comments that the leader has made, and I formally second the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Instant. Do any other members wish to contribute to the decision? Leader? Oh, sorry, it's only just come up, sorry. Councillor Jones.
I do apologise, I always get it the wrong way around. We just want to congratulate Alison on becoming Chief Executive. I think she's a fantastic officer, very approachable, and we look forward to working with her and making changes in Wigan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Against? That is carried. Congratulations. Policy and budget framework. Delivery of efficiency, revenue and capital budget framework. Members are asked to note that as this is the budget report, we are required by regulations to have a name vote on any motion and amendment to motions on this item. The Council is requested to consider the recommendation as set out at pages 22 and 23 of the agenda. The report was considered by Cabinet at its meeting held on the 21st of February 2019. The views of the scrutiny were also taken on board at a later meeting of the Cabinet that day. I now invite the Leader and his Cabinet to present the budget to move all the recommendations. Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, it's going to be a team effort tonight, and all my Cabinet members will respond individually to their portfolios. We've recently just gone through a very intense, very interesting listening event, and I pledged at the beginning of my leadership that we would listen. And I think the big listening event has proven that. I think there's a green coach for sale somewhere. It seems to have travelled the borough, although it may be back at MFI or wherever it came from. But it certainly proved value for money in terms of the responses we got from members of the public. And looking forward as a council is something that we like to do. Obviously, for the 6th year running, which is quite exceptional among councils up and down the country, we have frozen the council tax that we are responsible for. The only increase people will see this year is in the Mayor's precinct for Greater Manchester, but I can say tonight that Wigan has the lowest council tax in Greater Manchester. In fact, we're just one of 3% of councils who've actually done that. So I think it's quite commendable that we do things differently in Wigan, we deliver things differently in Wigan. That goes back to some of my previous comments from Donna and Peter's leadership. You know, we dealt with the deal. I think people looked at us rather strange when we came out with the concept of the deal, delivering things differently. And when you start to think that we've already saved 141 million, it's something to be proud of in how we've dealt with it. And the members of the public certainly supported us wholly in that, and we appreciate fully the support we've got from our residents. And I can pledge again this year that there'll be no cuts in frontline services. We've made it a pledge from very early on in the process that we've gone through since 2010. And we will certainly not be seeing any cuts once again in our frontline services this year. A further 19.2 million will be saved over the next 3 years, and with 18.5 already identified as this year. We did listen to residents, and one of the things that came up very clearly to us is people's support for their town centres and their district centres. It was something that was really important to them. And we wanted to make sure that our two main centres got as much support that they could, certainly in this current climate, where we're seeing retail chains up and down the country closing, which is causing a lot of concern for people. And we're seeing the changing face of retail. But we think by supporting our town centres by giving free parking, it was something that came up very strongly in the listening event. And now that we can offer free parking at weekend, both in Wigan and Leigh, we hope that will give support to our retail sector in helping to promote footfall. And what I'm really pleading for is people take advantage of that, support our two town centres, support our district centres, and let them make them viable in places where people want to go. Another thing that really cropped up during the listening event, and I think we know it well, last year because of the bad weather, the pothole syndrome seemed to spread throughout the country, not just in Wigan. And people noticed it more because Wigan had always had excellent road services prior to the cuts that we had to make from 2010 onwards. Even now, our road services are far better than some of our neighbouring authorities. So much so was the national issue, the government issued a further funding for potholes. And we have topped that up. We are making sure that Wigan's road services, once again, some of the best, certainly in the north of England, if not the country. And I've allocated a further 3.5 million towards repairing potholes and bringing our road service up to standard. And we expect that to start as soon as practically possible, and hope that by the time we come to next winter, our road services stand up to anything that comes their way. I also want to announce a £10 million funding for our town centres and district centres. It was something that was brought up last year in the budget. in terms of that concern about the retail decline. And I think it's very important that we try to do our best to protect our town centres, protect our district centres, and I'm pleased to announce an additional £10 million of funding for our town and district centres. We know the success of SIF, and I'm sure my colleague Councillor Reedy will talk about that in his presentation. But I'd like to announce a different slant on SIF tonight, and that's £1 million of funding, which I want to see put into our local schools in terms of health and well-being. I think we'll find that extra curriculum activities have diminished a lot in schools, in terms of after-school activities, in terms of sport, in arts and creation. And I want to make sure that we can fund that, and I hope that this will go a long way too. The other thing that we talked about certainly was in the listening event, and certainly in previous budget reports, is the A49 link road. The road that people thought would never be delivered, well, they're on site now and delivering. And that will make a considerable impact in terms of congestion in and around Wigan. The Armed Forces Hub, it seems a long while since we first announced that we were going to deliver an Armed Forces Hub. And when you consider with over 22,000 veterans in Wigan alone, it shows that what we wanted to deliver, we've now delivered, and the Armed Forces Hub is up and running. Some people in the Chamber may remember some years ago we had a member of the opposition group who suggested that we actually sell off our shares in Manchester Airport. And I think at the time we got something like 6-7 million for a one-off sale. We've constantly seen the delivery of return on our investment in Manchester Airport, and we're looking at 5 million again this year. So I'm very pleased that the League at the time didn't listen to that particular plea, and I think everyone in this chamber will certainly be glad for what we deliver from it, that we've got the shares that we have in Manchester Airport. Another feather in the cap is certainly the World Cup that's coming in 2021, the Rugby League World Cup, and we've got 3 games which are going to be based at the Leeds Sports Village. It would be wrong of me not to say I am disappointed that we've not got one at the DW Stadium, but I'm proud to say that we've got 3 games at Leeds Sports Village, and certainly the whole borough will benefit from the legacy money that's there for the World Cup legacy bid, and I know that a lot of our amateur rugby league clubs are now reaping the benefits of that, and many of them have put applications in, and hopefully they will be successful. All in all, Madam Mayor, the start of the budget tells you that we aim to make things different, we intend to deliver things, and it's not going to be a budget for the few, it's not going to be a budget for the many, it's going to be a budget for them all. I think tonight you will see from the presentations that we are very progressive in the way we want to deliver services in Wigan and the way we want to deliver it for everyone. I now then call on the Cabinet Minister, you've got to go. I've got Cabinet Ministers on my mind tonight. Can I just ask Councillor Raymond now to take us through her presentation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Madam Mayor, I'm proud and delighted to present a balanced, financially prudent and a robust budget for 2019-2020. This budget demonstrates our year-on-year commitment to our residents, resilient communities, good schools, lifelong learning, good transport links, and well-deserved care for our elders. I am unlike 97% of local authority executive members for finance in the country who had to break the news to their residents that they had to put up the local authority's share of council tax regardless of their political complexion. Madam Mayor, Wigan is one of the worst hit local authorities in the country, with our budget slashed to the bare minimum. Madam Mayor, I find myself in a position of extreme privilege to announce that despite making £141 million of cuts so far, we remain in a position of fiscal resilience, and we have decided not to balance the budget by what's left in our residents' pockets by shifting the burden of government's failures to our public. If government doesn't change things drastically, we remain in a position to make further cuts during the next 2 years without letting our frontline services adversely affected. Madam Mayor, we shouldn't forget the national picture and central government's policies trying to cripple local authorities to the point of paralysis. The backdrop of broken promises, of alleviating poverty, worsening equality figures, universal credit, homelessness, the plight of WASPy women, rise in life crimes, and deep cuts to our core services. Madam Mayor, despite being the 6th strongest economy, United Nations carried out a study looking into poverty in the UK, concluding that the government had enough resources to invest in our public services, but they chose not to, and that was purely a political choice. In last decade, our generation has grown without opportunity. Local authorities have shrunk in size, in scale, and in scope. The government has shifted its responsibility for policing and adult social care to the public, putting local authorities under huge pressure. The crumbs promised in lieu of stronger towns fund this week highlight the callous lack of government's ambition and any concerns for the future of local government. However, the increasing demand for children and adult social care has crippled local councils. We in Wigan have the fastest growing population in Greater Manchester, with no meaningful support from the government, but we as a local authority remain committed to support our elder residents to live fully and independent lives. School fundings continue to dominate the media for real-time reduction in school budgets and high-need special school placements. But we are working hard to provide best care to our looked after and special education needs and disability children. My Cabinet colleagues, Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Bullen, will expand on the work going on in their areas to mitigate those pressures. But the story doesn't end here. There are also potential implications on the horizon from the Fair Funding Review, which will set new baseline funding allocations for local authorities. First consultation on Fair Funding Review by the government has failed to take deprivation into account. We are lobbying with other councils to get deprivation included as one of the deciding factors for a meaningful and a comprehensive funding review. The second unknown we are dealing with is business rate reset. As a pilot in Greater Manchester, we are retaining 100% of our business rates, but if the government implements proposals for its reforms in 2020-2021, we'll have to see if austerity-ridden authorities will get what they desperately need, or will it be business as usual by the government? With less than 600 hours to go, Brexit looms as the most vacillating, the most controversial, and the most divisive issue in Britain, with huge potential impacts on people's lives. By being proactive, making tough decisions, and corporate efficiencies earlier on, Wigan has succeeded to defy the trend and managed to work in the most innovative and efficient ways with our residents, community groups, charities, and other partners. Madam Mayor, today's proposed budget includes the council tax resolutions, calculations, and rates for 1920 as detailed in Appendix 1 of the report, which incorporates a 0% increase in general council tax. The report provides details of the level of reduced funding for the period together with the proposed council tax, which stands at £1,565 for Band D equivalent. This figure includes the Greater Manchester Police and Greater Manchester Mayoral Precept. The budget, delivery of efficiency for 1920, as set out in the Appendix 2, includes the proposed changes to fees and charges for next fiscal year. The prudential indicator in relation to the capital programme and authorised limits are set out in Appendix 3, as well as the capital strategy and minimum revenue provision. The housing revenue account estimates and medium-term financial plans is set out in Appendix 4, and indicative school budgets is in Appendix 5, and pay policy statement in Appendix 6. Our medium-term financial plan has been based upon the latest financial information and is the platform to ensure that the Council continues to operate on a sound and sustainable financial position. Madam Mayor, there is significant uncertainty on the financing of local government from 2020 to 2021, which could impact upon our current position. However, details will not be known until later this year. In summary, we are entering into the new financial year financially strong with a keen eye on challenges ahead. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our officers, Paul McCavitt, Tony Clark, Jane Green, and their team for the great work they do every day. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Peter and David for your political leadership that led us to be financially strong. Madam Mayor, I commend this budget to the Council. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm really pleased to be able to talk Council through some of the key highlights of the Planning and Environment Services portfolio. The details are on the screen, but I'll talk in a little bit more detail about some of the key achievements and opportunities. First of all, I want to start with something that I've talked about in this chamber previously, and that's the transformational work we've done with our waste services. Following the implementation of our 3 weekly bin collections, our recycling rate has increased by 8% this year. This actually makes us one of the best recycling councils in the country, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our residents for all the support they've given the council by recycling more and recycling right. In terms of the budget, this great work by our residents supporting us through the deal has helped us reduce the amount of waste we send to landfill, and not only is that an environmental benefit, but it helps us to reduce our overall waste disposal costs as well. So during this time, our landfill costs have reduced by 62%, down from £492,000 in 17-18 to just over £185,000 in 18-19. These savings within the waste budget have enabled us to review the pricing structure of our bulky waste collection service, and listening to feedback through the Big Listening project, we've been able to apply charge reductions on our bulky waste collection service. So the message to our residents is that if you're helping us and doing the right thing, then we'll do what we can within the financial constraints we have to support you. Our drive to reduce the blight of fly tipping has also returned positive outcomes. Indeed, reports of fly tipping across the borough are down by 13%, and perhaps more significantly, we've also dramatically increased the number of successful prosecutions. So it's not just a case of asking people not to do it, and people, but it's about taking action where we catch people, and that's just as important. It's about education, but ultimately it's about enforcement as well, if we want to have the cleaner and greener borough that our residents demand. As the Mayor announced earlier in this meeting, our programme of waste amnesties, in particular the project in Lee, has been nationally recognised with the Keep Britain Tidy Award for community engagement. Moving over to our street lighting service, that again has been recognised nationally as being one of the best services in the country. And over the last few years, we've been undertaking a replacement programme so that, and I'm able to announce tonight that now all our street lights have been converted to new low-energy LED lighting units. This is great for the environment because it's reduced our annual energy consumption by over 54%. That's providing a financial saving of over £1 million per year, but in environmental terms, that's reducing our annual carbon dioxide emissions by over 3,400 tonnes. In the other part of my portfolio area, the planning service, recently our planning department has rolled out new systems for submitting and tracking the more than 1,200 applications per year which the department receives. This will allow residents and consultees to check on applications in real time, and it will also notify elected members of pending applications in their wards. This new software will be a one-stop shop for all applications. Residents and developers can submit and view feedback on applications in one place. As a department, we are committed to providing every planning application with the attention it deserves, and so as a department there is a transformation programme underway, and we are continually adapting and developing new efficient methods of working in order to deliver a timely and better service to our residents who use it. And finally, I'll briefly talk about new homes. So in 17-18 in Wigan, there were 948 additional completion of houses. That gave us the third highest completion rate in Greater Manchester, and we were behind only Manchester and Salford. Wigan's one of only 4 GM districts who met their annual housing need in 1718. And this annual housing need is based on local housing need, which is calculated using the government's standardised methodology. That's important because it means that within this borough, we are driving the economic growth that we need to be able to survive in these austere times, but more importantly, we are providing houses for our families and for our residents to thrive and grow. But it's important to point out that 23% of those houses are affordable homes through a mixture of affordable rent, registered social landlords, as well as some built directly by the council. I'm sure my colleague Councillor Halliwell will refer to that in his statement shortly. So overall, I've been really proud of the services that my portfolios cover. I'd like to say a big thank you to all the officers involved and a big thank you to all the residents of Wigan supporting the council through the deal that's enabled many of these successes to be delivered. And I would commend this budget to the council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm extremely proud of what this council's done in terms of having social care over the last few years. And I think partly I have to thank the staff in there, because when people come to visit us and see what we've managed to achieve, everybody says they are blown away by the enthusiasm, commitment and motivation of all the staff in our social care. And I would like to thank them for what they've achieved over the last few years. So, 2008, Peter Smith, leader of the council at the time, asked me to take on the portfolio for adult social care. I was a bit reluctant, because for 30 years I've worked in the NHS, managing mental health services in London, in Wigan, in Manchester and Liverpool. And I thought it's a bit like going back to work if I take on adult social care. But I did. So that was May 2008. August 2008, financial crash. 2010, the coalition government and the introduction of really harsh austerity that other people have just said indicated that Wigan, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, was the third worst affected in the country. And as Councillor Raymond's just outlined, the pressures on adult social care budgets, because actually Wigan has the fastest growing older population in the whole of Greater Manchester. Now many authorities up and down the country just cut services. Many authorities use reserves, didn't cut services and use reserves to prop up services. And now, when you look in the national press, in the trade press, concerns up and down the country about adult social care in crisis. The government was supposed to produce a green paper on adult social care to address the problems. They were publishing it in 2017, then they were publishing it in 2018, now they're publishing it in 2019. So despite the continuing crisis nationally in adult social care, the government still hasn't produced that green paper to address the issues of social care in this country. So what have we achieved over those years? Because from the very start we adopted a completely different approach around transforming and changing the way we provided services, around giving staff flexibility, being able to innovate and do different things, by having a different conversation with people who require social care, by looking at what would make people's days better, what people require, by asking them rather than just presenting them with a small number of opportunities. In early days we had a lot of opposition, and I don't think many of those are here now, but Councillor Grundy is, because he actually opposed the closure of the Times at the time and the things we were doing. I think he's about the only one that's present now that was here then. But we held our nerve and we stuck by it. And what we've achieved is a situation where in Wigan, one of the only councils in the country to have an adult social care budget that is balanced. Some of the issues in social care are around the quality of care homes. By adopting a different approach and working with the 2,000 of our residents live in nursing and residential homes in this world. And by adopting a different approach and working proactively with those care homes, what we've seen is Wigan has the third fastest improvements nationally for care home quality. Another issue that gets a lot of attention is people being stuck in hospital, unable to get out because of the lack of social care. The technical term is DTOC, delayed transfers of care, people stuck in hospital beds. By developing an integrated team, the Wigan Infirmary, with us and the Health Service and the NHS, Wigan is the 5th best nationally. 5th in the country for getting people out of home from hospital and getting people out. So despite the cuts, despite the fact that we were affected in that way, we've got the 3rd fastest improvements in care home quality, we've got the 5th best borough for getting people out of hospital. And all of the services that we directly provide, 100% of the services provided by this council directly in adult social care are rated good or outstanding. In fact, the reablement team of this council is the only outstanding reablement service in the country. So big achievements despite all the challenges that we face. Moving forward, we talk about the integration of health and social care. So CCG or PCTs previously, and now the Political Commissioning Group get money for health. The council have the money for social care and housing and various other things. What people are doing across the country are pooling those budgets and integrating those budgets to prevent duplication, to ensure and to prevent cost shunting. Because sometimes what was happening was, because the money was in different pots, people would reduce their level of service, but that had an implication on another part of the system. So by pooling £1.2 billion of CCG and local authority budgets, by integrating that, we can strengthen investment in good health outcomes for residents. And in 2013, the government transferred public health responsibility to local authorities. And since 2013, the government have reduced the public health budget by 25%. They've taken a quarter off the public health budget. But what's been the impact in Wigan? The impact in Wigan is that we see a rising level of age expectancy. We've got the highest rate of increase in we were always Wigan as a borough were way below the England national average for terms of life expectancy. We've seen a huge rise that's starting to get us very close to the England average. And when you look at our statistical neighbours, so that's boroughs that are similar to us, we are outperforming them in terms of improvements in public health. The number of alcohol-related admissions into hospital, which was always high here, and is still high, but we've seen significant reductions. Our sexual health services are much improved, so we've seen real big improvements in our public health. 14,000 children in this borough do the daily mile every day. That's more than anywhere else in the country. Promoting a healthy lifestyle and exercise and activity for younger people. So a lot of the things we've done, despite having that big reduction, have seen a big improvement. And the opportunity now to integrate our budgets and work together as a system is a real opportunity to have better health outcomes for residents of this borough. And so whilst many authorities are cutting services in adult social care, What are we doing in Wigan? Despite being hit by the third worst in the country, despite freezing our element of council tax for 6 years, what are we doing? We are investing in adult social care. I think we must be one of the only authorities in the country that are actually putting more money into adult social care. We have a balanced budget and we're investing more. So £2.9 million is going to be put into care fees. We want all our care homes to be paying the national living wage. We want all our care homes to provide good quality care. And like I said, with third most improved nationally, we've done from somewhere like 55% good or outstanding to well over 80% of our care homes. And we've gone from having 6 inadequates to having none. So actually working with the care homes, improving quality for those 2,000 of our residents that are there, by ensuring that we're providing market stability, because we all know that some of the bigger companies, Southern Cross a few years ago, the companies going out of business or going bust. So in order to maintain market stability, to ensure that the market can survive and thrive within this borough, we are putting £2.9 million in to support the ongoing quality of the social care work. One of the things that we've not been particularly good at is ensuring that people with a learning disability can get into employment. Places like Stockport and Trafford have been far more successful than us. We recognise that our initiatives have not been good enough. So we are investing a further £100,000 in an employment innovation fund to improve job opportunities for people with a learning disability. And I'm hoping that we as a council can set an example and provide some of the apprenticeships and some of the opportunities for people with a learning disability to get jobs in this borough. Of course, we owe a great thanks to the thousands of carers, informal carers caring for husbands, wives, mums, dads, sons, daughters. They provide a tremendous amount of support that we just couldn't, if we had to do it ourselves, we couldn't pay. It's just absolutely unaffordable. So the contribution that carers do, and let's remember, it's not a job most carers want to do it because they want to look after the husband, the wife, the mum, the dad. So, but we're putting in an extra £400,000 this year. That is earmarked to strengthening the support to carers. Housing for Health. I think we have one of the most ambitious Housing for Health programs in the country. And when you see brand new builds like Tanfield in Hinley, like Little Lane for older people, and on the site of the Pines that Councillor Grundy, you opposed to me closing, that 70s build, very poor accommodation for people with learning disability. On that very site, now is Mayfield House. 12 apartments, independent living apartments for people with autism. 8 of the 12 have their own garden. Staffed by staff employed by this council, people with quite high degree of autism, 52 staff employed by this council, brand new built, all modern technology. Every apartment has entrance hall, lounge, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, as opposed to a crummy little single room and toilet down the road. A real achievement that we've done. And you can see even more on the site of Hydro Lodge in Hinley. The development started now for accommodation, supported accommodation and bungalows for people with a learning disability. And in Goulburn, at Ullswater Road, that's also starting. And there is more to come. Because actually enabling people to retain their independence, to have support to live independently. And when I think of those people from the Pines who eventually moved out into supported accommodation, how their lives changed incredibly, how they developed more independence. There was a huge advantage in the staff who moved from the Pines into there talk now about the changes in the people and how they developed and grew and gained their independence and self-reliance much more. So we will continue to provide that extra housing for help for those with a learning disability, for those with mental health problems, for the older people. I was talking yesterday about one issue that is becoming apparent nationally, and that is many people with a learning disability, Down syndrome, or those various things, are now living much longer than they did in years gone by. But that's bringing about the added problem of people developing dementia because of it. And so we have a problem nationally that we're going to address here by providing supported housing. Because the residential care market struggles to deal with somebody with that dementia who has a learning disability, and learning disability services struggle to manage with somebody who has dementia. So in fact, I was looking yesterday and talking about the development of a dementia unit for people with a learning disability in this way. And we will continue to provide more housing. And all this housing is brand new buildings. High quality accommodation. And so we'll continue on that. The leader mentioned the Armed Forces Hub, and last year we saw the development of the Armed Forces Hub, and it actually, we talked about it for a long time, but it's actually there now. And it opened last year, and I think one of the big advantages we've got is we have a strategic Armed Forces Services Manager in Major John Harker, who is well respected and has significant impact. Also, I had we appointed a lead member for the Armed Forces, and that was Councillor Clive Morgan. And I think Clive is part of the reason why we were successful in getting Simon Weston, probably one of the most famous veterans in this country, to come and open our Armed Forces Hub. Because when Simon Weston sustained his injuries in the Falklands, Councillor Morgan was with him on the same ship. So actually we have Major Harker, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan as an officer, as a strategic manager for Armed Forces work, and we have Councillor Clive Morgan, who served and provided active service. So really good people who understand the needs of people, of those 22,000 people in this borough who served in the Armed Forces. And I think part of that Armed Forces Hub, part of John Harker, Clive Morgan, has meant that recently we have just been successful in getting a Ministry of Defence Covenant Fund award, one of only 3 in the country, of just short of £480,000 to develop services for armed forces, people and families. So tackling stress, dealing with stress. And I think part of the reason the Ministry of Defence is awarding that to Wigan, one of only 3 places in the country, is because of our record in providing the Armed Forces Hub and the people that we have working there. So I think there's great opportunities coming forward. And what is really amazing is what we've managed to do and the investment we're making. And as I said at the beginning, I give great credit to the staff that we're employing now, for the energy, for the commitment, for the dedication to giving people what they want and what they need and working with them. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the Local Government Association have highlighted that across the country, children's services face a 3.1 million budget funding gap by 2025. 3.1 billion. Just to maintain the current levels of service. The shameful increases in child poverty across the country being one key reason for the increasing demands and pressures on our children's services. Nationally, on average, there are 9 children in every classroom of 30 living in poverty. In Wigan, we are experiencing similar pressures of increasing demand, but we should be proud that due to our work through the deal and our engaged and skilled staff, we are managing well despite these pressures. Overall, the number of children in our care has safely reduced, and importantly, we have protected caseloads for social workers to ensure that they can work effectively with families to keep them safe and together wherever possible. For example, we have seen the number of cases we take to court to issue care proceedings reduced by 75% since January last year. We are investing in an asset-based practice model for safeguarding children called Signs of Safety, which we are confident will give our staff the tools to further develop our deal approach throughout all our work with children and families. Whilst we continue to invest in managing the increasing demands on children's services as a council, our teams have secured almost £1 million worth of external funding this year. Money that we're using to transform our residential care for young people and to give social workers personal budgets to timely support children and their families who are at risk of coming into care. Following our successful Ofsted and CQC inspection of services for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, SEND, we are continuing to invest in transforming the support for these children and their families. This is a whole system transformation which includes the current public consultation on proposals to invest in a capital programme in our already good and outstanding special schools. Under Councillor Reedy's leadership, we have seen the incredible impact of the Deal for Communities Investment Fund and how community responses to some of our most pressing challenges has made a real difference to people's lives. I'm proud to announce, and the leader mentioned it already, that there will again be £1 million invested in our communities through this fund, and I will be working with Councillor Reedy and the leader to ensure that our Startwell centres and schools that are at the very heart of our communities take up a significant part of this year's funding, working with our amazing community organisations. Whilst the government continues to slash the budgets of our schools, this council continues to invest and put them and the education of our children at the forefront of our policy through our deal. And I'd just like to mention, if I may, Madam Mayor, very quickly a story this morning about investment in our children's services. I was at Inch Startwell Centre, which is attached to Inchstein Primary School, and there we launched the Book Start project. The Book Start project is a resource for parents and children, books for children to help their communication and language development, give them the best start in life, and also some textbook information for parents about how best they can support their children. And that was launched this morning, I'm so pleased to tell you. And another important aspect of that project is that the book pack
is presented to families when they register the child's birth. So we are really getting in early and investing very early in our young children's lives to be able to support them and so that they can be successful throughout their lives. Madam Mayor, we take our responsibilities for our care leavers as their corporate parents, we're all corporate parents, very seriously. We have supported 60 care leavers through the Confident Futures programme, with 75% of them going on to secure permanent employment. Last year, if you remember, we agreed to exempt our care leavers from council tax up to the age of 21. And many of our care leavers have told me how much of a difference that has made to their finances and well-being. But some have felt very anxious about their personal budgeting as they move beyond the age of 21. So I'm therefore pleased to announce that we are extending that support so that all our care leavers from our borough will be exempt from paying council tax up to the age of 25. And finally, Madam Mayor, I really do want to pass on grateful thanks to our Director of Social Services, our senior council officers and all their staff teams who work amazingly hard and with total commitment to our children and young people's services. Thank you all.
It's my pleasure, Madam Mayor, to take you through some of the key points where we follow up these crimes and prejudices. This Labour Council's decision to retain ownership of its housing stock and bring this money back into house has allowed to develop a new approach to antisocial behaviour.
I'll start again. This Labour Council's decision to retain ownership of its housing stock and then bring its money back into house has allowed it to develop a new approach to antisocial behaviour. A joint team working across the borough. We're bringing together teams from the council and housing to develop a 10-year blind approach to antisocial behaviour that puts residents at its heart. The new team will focus on early intervention, will be assigned a specific geographical area to help facilitate partnership working and relationships with elected members. ASB officers will have a higher profile in their place and be closely aligned to single delivery footprint areas. The big listing project highlighted that feeling safe was a key priority for residents, so the new team will be working closely with the police on this agenda. This is another excellent example of this Labour Council listening to resident priorities and enacting positively. Operation Ergo. I'm really pleased that Operation Ergo will be in place from the 11th of March, with GMP, Great Manchester Police, moving back to a neighbourhood policing model, including the appointment of neighbourhood inspectors and teams, which will enable better joint working and accountability. The police precinct will also fund around 30 additional officers for this borough. I also understand that there will have been an extra 90 staff recruited to handle calls for the 101 service. Hopefully, this will result in significant improvements to this service. An improved digital offer is also being developed by Greater Manchester Police, which will allow low-level concerns to be reported by the public, for example, minor road accidents, and the ability to obtain crime reference numbers for insurance purposes. Moving on to domestic abuse. Through the Community Safety Grant, we've invested in the coordinated community response model for domestic violence and abuse. This means that every incident receives a response. The total domestic abuse incidents in Wigan reduced in 2018 compared to 2017, whereas across Greater Manchester have increased, so we're moving in the right direction. Importantly, we're also seeing less and less repeat incidents. For example, of the 53 high-risk incidents to be reported in December 2018, there wasn't a single repeat incident, which is definitely good news. I'd really like to thank you for the opportunity to thank my lead councillor, Councillor Paula Wakefield, for all hard work in this area, and she's very dedicated to the cause. Just moving on to the legal action. From mid-September to mid-October last year, we undertook actionally working with GMP and the Fire and Rescue Service and other partners to bring about increased police presence to address antisocial behaviour and drug dealing hotspots. The leading investment has been used on 10 new CCTV cameras and 2 new rapid deployment units. The locations of these cameras have been agreed by local councillors, Greater Manchester Police and other partner agencies. We will also be receiving £100,000 funding from Greater Manchester Police and Crown Commissioner to fund community activities that engage young people in positive activities. We will also be receiving £60,000 to look out at a wider approach to exploitation, for example, criminal exploitation, trafficking and modern-day slavery, building on the excellent work we've done on child sexual exploitation. I'm also pleased to say that we continue to strengthen our approach to civil contingencies. The Council's 24/7 Emergency Control Centre and Maintenance and Detection Centre has gone live. Plus, we also have the first cohort of emergency mental health responders in place. This ensures that we have plans to support the emotional and mental health needs during an incident as well as the physical aspects. 29 volunteers have been recruited to form a special response team to address this issue. The team went into operation in December 2018 from Wigan to First in the GM region. Volunteers under the 12-month training programme will be able to offer special support to residents, council staff or volunteers who have been impacted by an incident. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now I'd like to hand over to Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Firstly, can I welcome the £1 million that the leader spoke about and also Councillor Bullen. I think it's come at the right time, if I'm being quite honest. In communities, we've done so much work over the years, and you've heard me in this chamber talk about it so many times. I think it's one of the only things in this chamber I think we all agree on, all opposition members, that the SIF has been so successful and so popular out there with our residents. So how will it look like, the kind of school and community project? Well, we've got to put a lot of meat on the bones before we get into that. We're mainly going to look at primary schools to start off with, and we've got 111 primary schools. So one of the tasks that the leaders give himself and Councillor Bull is to meet with people from those schools. So we'll be doing sessions over the next year to talk to them about how they work and what we can look at. We'll also be speaking to our community leaders about how they plan into that, and we'll be looking at collaboration work with schools and looking at targets and looking at how they work in the community and like obesity and the healthy issues. So it's a really exciting time actually, because I think the leader touched on it. There are out-of-curriculum activities that have dwindled in schools, and if you think about schools, they're our biggest asset within the community. The buildings, they've got resources in there, and we need to be using them more. And we've got communities that I need this, I need that, and we've actually got them sat there. So it's really, it'll be another first for the country because this has not happened before. So it's really exciting, and one of the things I think what we need to do is engage local members in with the schools with this, communities and actually the schools. So I think moving forward through the year, and we'll probably be delivering updates on this, it'll be good, really good for communities, and it'll bring lots of other things in, and I'm looking forward to Councillor Bullen bossing me about it because she'll be doing that. I think I'm not going to go through all the slides because we've heard it all before. You can see that the money is brought back in, 10 million investment. It's brought 9.5 million back in through public services. The leverage is 5 million, so you can see straight away that we're actually well in credit with this. But what it has done, we've got actually thousands of volunteers, 600 projects, 500 groups. But one of the things today, myself and my ward colleagues went to Aspel Library, which was one of the libraries under threat going back in 2011. And we both had, all three of us had reservations then about how this was going to work as a volunteer-run library. There's now 16 volunteers in there, and most of them have been on there since 2011. What a commitment from people who've done that and kept their doors open. And we asked them today, why did they do it? One of them was the deal. They really embraced the deal and said, we knew this is the way forward. We want to keep our library, but we also enjoy what we do, and we enjoy working in the community, and we get more back from it than we actually give out. But for a commitment of 16 people who do it on a rota basis and really work together, sometimes they don't see each other, but they work together. And I know that's kind of escalated throughout other communities, but I can only talk about that because we actually did that today, and we were so impressed with it. And we just wanted to recognise, we went there to say thank you for what you do, because I think sometimes we don't do that enough. We need to thank people for what they do. I think just touching on one thing that came across today when I was going through some documentation was, actually I've covered culture and customer services and stuff like that, and since 2014 in customer service and libraries and culture, they've had to find a saving of £850,000, and you think, you know, we're top 841 million, and you think to yourself, what have we done by doing that? We've improved services at customer service level. Our libraries are improved. All the things that we've done have improved. But why have they improved? Because we've got volunteers on board. We've got communities more involved. And that's why we've been able to save it, but also improve the service. So for me, that really does out that it does work. And last week myself and Catherine went down to London with some other authorities. So Bob Kersler, who heads up all the community portfolio, said to me in the break, "What's your secret?" And I said, "The secret is having volunteers and actually putting trust in them." And what volunteers said to us, "This is a real partnership. You're not playing a game. It actually means something that you're giving us some funding, you're giving us advice, we pay you that back. That is the deal." And all those people were talking about there in London was the deal. It's so catchy, it so sticks with everybody. When you look at strategies all over the country, and people talk, everybody knows about the deal. Never mind in Wigan, they know about it everywhere. It's so you know, powerful out there for us. I think one of the things what we said last year under Peter's leadership was, we know we have to look further than 2021, because we don't know what funding's going to be like. None of us know what Brexit's going to be like and all that kind of stuff. And we know we've got to work differently, we've got to find it. So we employed a funding manager, I think it might be 18 months ago now, to look at it. And Tracy, and many of the met in communities and giving advice and helping people, she's brought nearly £300,000 into this authority, and there's lots of others pending. And there's stuff where she's helped people we don't know how much she's got. So that can be probably doubled, if not tripled. And that just shows you what, by forward thinking, how you can do that. We've now got really strong links with the lottery because they've looked at the deal and how we do funding. And Heritage Lottery, so they're looking at how we work. And that's some good for us because they always say Wigan's underfunded the lottery, but then we don't get it. So I think that's going to be a real move forward that we might break that. Crowdfunding is something that people have really got to get into. Last year, as you can see on the screen, it raises lots of money in there. It's an easy option to do for communities. You can use your brat to borrow money to prop up some of that and raise more money into it. It's just so powerful that we speak to communities all the time and say, we don't know whether we're going to be able to fund you. I don't know whether we're going to get this money that the leaders done this year. We don't know when it's going to run out because we don't know what the budget forecast is for in future. But it's so exciting that we're kind of doing all that. And I think there's two things really. That our assets, that we've spoken about schools, are a massive asset for us in linking our communities in there. But what I want to do, I want to thank all the community staff who work for us, all the customer service people. But what I really want to do is thank all the volunteers that we have in this borough. Without them doing what they do day in, day out, Wigan wouldn't be the place it would. We won't be able to achieve the savings, and it's about true partnership working. I get really emotional thinking about all the work that we do with volunteers and they think the time. Similar to what Keith spoke about with carers, it's all people putting back in. And they do it because it's a true partnership. And that happens over and over again. We're going to carry on working with people. And we're going to carry on working and we're going to move forward even faster under Alison and Peter and David's leadership. So it's going to be really exciting times ahead. So big thank you to everybody who's involved all over. Let's keep motoring on with it and some exciting times ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to outline some of the improvements we're going to make and some of the achievements we've made in respect of housing, welfare and homelessness tonight. This Labour Council has constructed approximately 373 new council homes since 2010 through a direct delivery programme which plans to build a further 250 within the next 3 years. However, the recent announcement of the removal of the HRA borrowing cap represents an opportunity to develop new build schemes which can be funded by prudential borrowing and take the level of the HRA borrowing above the existing housing revenue cap, an initiative which has long been waiting for. Wigan Council is directly building up a wide range of homes to meet a variety of needs that some of my colleagues have already touched on, including family houses and general needs, supported housing schemes, bungalows, which contribute to the Housing for Health programme. During 2018, 3 schemes were completed, delivering a total of 100 new homes. The new older people scheme at Little Lane, Goose Green, 39 self-contained apartments, meeting both lifetime homes and dementia-friendly standards. A supported housing scheme at Mayfield Road, which my colleague Councillor Cunliffe has touched on, Oral and bungalows at Anthon Road in Winstonley. The supported housing scheme at Mayfield Road, Oral, was shortlisted for the Inside Housing Development Awards in the Best Inclusive Housing Scheme category. There are 4 schemes currently on site, delivering a further 136 homes which should be completed in the next 2 years. These include 2 further autism schemes at Hindale Lodge in Hindley and Ullswater Avenue, Goldburn. We have secured a total of 3.5 million from the grant funding from Homes England in 2018 to fund our direct delivery programme. Our capital programme this year for council houses has a value of about 38 million. 8.4 of this relates to schemes expected to be carried forward from the 2018-2019 programme, and the main items in the programme this year are 50 million for new building regeneration, 1.7 to complete the bathroom refurbishment programme, 2.3 on improvements to sheltered accommodation, and 2 million for disabled adaptations, and 7.2 on bringing void properties back up to rentable standards. Now, we will also be investing in a new online housing repair system, as has been reported at the Housing Advisory Panel, that hopefully will enable residents to book appointments outside of normal working hours, bringing this part of our housing offer in line with our digital agenda, such as we've done with applying for council houses online. I'd like just to touch on our homelessness work that we've been doing and our teams have been doing over in Lee and Wigan. As you know, the Lee hub opened first, and we've been making steady improvements to that and how we deliver that. The Wigan one opened, I think it was on Christmas Eve, bang on time, and was delivered, and that has been proved successful too. And this is in addition to the fact that we've increased outreach provision across the borough to help tackle those sleeping outside of normal working hours. Now, you will also know that the GM promoted is emergency provision for extra beds, and I can announce tonight that where it currently is placed at St George's, we will be funding that for a further 12 months to maintain that provision and help those people that need it most. All 3 of them, the Wigan Hub, the Lee Hub and the emergency homeless provision at St George's and the bed every night, all of them have wraparound services and that holistic support. So hopefully that will go from strength to strength, and it gives us that opportunity to engage with them and try to get them, find a pathway for them back into independent living with a roof over their head. In addition to this though, we're actually going to increase what we would class as move-on accommodation units from approximately about 140, and we're going to put that up to about 250. This will help to provide some move-on from the hubs into accommodation and then into independent living. So this consolidates our work on helping those sleepers and those that find themselves homeless. Now, from time to time, it's necessary, and it's been raised in 1 or 2 circles, but from that time to time, it's necessary to do and undertake some estate regeneration. It's necessary to intervene to regain confidence in the area and improve the lives of those living there. Bushley Mains is one of those, and following the completion of the Estate Regeneration Master Plan in 2017, the project has continued to make some progress. This has involved working with the local community and local ward councillors, and we have promoted the opportunity to the development of the industry to garner support. The first phase has identified 5 sites for development with capacity for about 200 homes and community commercial facilities. Work has now moved on to looking at how the opportunities within the estate can be used delivered. In addition to that, Sandalwood Drive in Beach Hill, the regeneration options have been clarified to identify the opportunity to redevelop an area of land, combined with the adjoining land for older persons housing. Phase demolition and starting. If it's sometimes necessary, it's not what we want to do, but if we can regenerate and improve people's lives, that's what we'll do. And it enables us to increase, provide properties that are commensurate with today's needs. Now, in addition to housing and homelessness, my portfolio also covers welfare support. And the welfare support offered by this team at Wigan Council has been recognised as one of its leading in its class by the Greater Manchester Poverty Action Group. In their review of local welfare assistance schemes in England, published in September 2018, the Greater Manchester Poverty Action Group noted that Wigan was one of only a small number of authorities that had maintained a welfare support budget at the same level as 2015 and 16. And Wigan had the highest proportion of successful applicants for support at 87% across GM. I think that's a fantastic achievement, and I think we as a council should thank all the staff involved who do deliver that. Now, last year we ran what we called a winter award drive, and we did the same this municipal year. Now, this has resulted in over 34,000 separate processes. This includes people on housing benefits, DHPs, council tax discount and exemptions, and affordable agreed payment arrangements. This is the second winter award drive run by the assessments and collections team. A huge amount of work, but it provides real benefits for people as the most vulnerable in our borough. It embodies the D-Lake ethos by ensuring that residents have claimed all benefits and discounts they are entitled to at a period of the year when family budgets may be stretched by cold weather and Christmas. The drive was widely publicised on social media via posters and flyers, by targeted direct mail campaigns and by staff themselves. We know that active early intervention by the council actually helps prevent poverty and financial inclusion, and that's why we was doing it. This improves the health and well-being of families involved, and some of the outcomes include some staggering figures. Something like 1,421 customers receiving budgeting support and welfare advice, enabling them to become more resilient to changes in their financial circumstances and managing them better. 427 customers who received welfare rights advice have been awarded backdated benefits totaling £38,000, with ongoing awards to the value of £304,000 annually. That's an amazing sum, it's an amazing amount of work. The focus was concentrated on ensuring that residents claiming the discretionary housing benefit, council tax deduction and free school meals they were entitled to. The team also challenged themselves to further improving housing benefit processes, down by a further 4 days during that drive. Now, I can announce tonight that we'll be doing this again next year because it helped those that need it most at the time when they're most vulnerable. And I would like to thank the team for all their hard work, and I'm sure council and councillors would agree that this is a fantastic achievement by this department. But, finally, I'd just like to touch on the final bullet point, which is investing in our heritage. One of the biggest areas that was affected by austerity since 2010 was, if you like, advice on officers employed by councillors, but employed by local authorities across England. And I think the figure is quite dramatic, because it's something like about a third of all conservation officers disappeared. But we managed to hold on to ours, and in some areas of the country we don't even have conservation officers, but we did. And when you're trying to balance the needs of adult social care and people coming out of hospital and social behaviour, heritage and retaining officers becomes a somewhat of a Cinderella backwater, doesn't it? And you're constantly knocking on the door, but if you know you're making £160 million worth of cuts, you might not get the answer you always want. However, we've maintained our conservation officer. So we have about 23 conservation areas in the borough. There are about 500 listed buildings and structures in the borough, approximately, there might be a little bit more. And I know we all share a passion. We did the big listening event. Some of the work that came out of that actually said that people like that heritage, they like the town, the heritage, the streetscape of the town, and what they go and view every day when they go shopping. And in some respects, it picks up on that. So I know we all share a passion for heritage, especially the built environment. So I want to just announce tonight that we will provide a great emphasis on maintaining and protecting the tone and grain on some of the conservation areas so that the vistas and the views can be enjoyed by future generations. And we're going to do this by just working a bit smarter and by concentrating some additional resources we've just taken on in the team to the education and enforcement and development of a heritage status for the borough, and that relates to building owners and also owners of houses and dwellings. Some of the achievements we was doing quite well last year. We've been having a Townscape Heritage Initiative that's been running for a few years now, and I can announce that we are soon to release about 850,000 for the Masonic buildings, that's tower buildings, on Walgate. And that'll be an overall investment scheme of about 2 million when it comes off. And that's going to change that. That's going to actually change that area of Walgate when you get off that station. When you think about HS2 and regeneration, I think that's really important. That's why we're putting for the THR. We also started to work on the pavements and the historic railings that are in the war memorial in the Cenotaph in the parish church, and we put some extra lighting in there, and we did some work on the church gardens. We also started to enforce on some untidy properties that were blighting and setting of the Cenotaph, and the historic sensitive repairs to the Cenotaph as well. So this year I can announce that a dedicated, but small, although significant, budget will be allocated for the conservation of our buildings and redirect some resources to the conservation areas across the borough. And we want to pilot it first to see how it goes. And the first initiative will be for the education and enforcement in the Walgate Conservation Area to improve and protect the character and appearance and streetscape of King Street. Now, following that pilot, we intend, once we've learned some lessons from that, to roll that out to some of the other major towns. And it links in with what the league has suggested with the 10 million for some of our major towns and districts. And there may be opportunities for members in there to get involved in that. But I just want to tell you that one of the first initiatives we're going to use some of that money for is to secure the 2 cemetery chapels which were designed by Alfred Waterhouse in cemetery. So that's something I think we should all, I know we all take pride in our heritage, and hopefully that will reassure some people that the strategy that we'll undertake following the pilot scheme will hopefully run out. Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'm proud to support this budget tonight. This is the Labour Council providing hope, inspiration and pride for local residents of all political persuasion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we've had a very detailed report on all portfolios within the budget, and I personally like to thank all my cabinet members for the hard work and dedication in terms of the delivery of this budget. Can I just say that there are times when we perhaps can't get across actually all the work that's being done within this council, and I think we've done that tonight with a clear insight to where the budget is put together. I don't make any apologies for the fact that we keep referring to the big listening event, because the big listening event went round to 82 locations within the borough, and we actually had conversations with over 6,000 people, and that is something that had never been done before. And I think it's so important that when people take the time to talk to us, we take the time to listen, and we take the time to act on what they have said to us. And I think you've seen tonight that we've actually done that. So, Madam Mayor, it gives me great pleasure in moving the budget for this forthcoming municipal year. Thank you, Madam.
Are these recommendations seconded? Thank you. Councillor Winstanley has indicated that he wishes to move an amendment to the budget at this point. Mr McCavitt, is this a balanced budget? Thank you. Councillor Winstanley, you have 5 minutes.
Madam Mayor, as Leader of the Opposition, do I not have 10 minutes to respond to the budget?
Sorry, 5 minutes.
I will move into the amendment as well, so I won't keep you longer than necessary. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and can I congratulate...
Councillor Winstanley, may I apologise? I've just been informed you do have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apology accepted. You know that being in the best possible nicest way. Can I congratulate the leader on presenting his first budget? It makes a change for me, rather than having to cross swords with Councillor Smith, and I can cross swords with Councillor Molyneux instead, presenting his budget. And I have to say, I thought the cabinet members, he was like the cast of Ben-Hur. I thought there was more and more coming as they went through it. But I think we can see a very, very detailed budget and some very good projects that are being promoted across the borough. So I again find myself and the Conservative group find ourselves in broad principle with the budget that's being proposed, save for the small amendment that we're going to move later. But I think everyone in Wigan will certainly welcome the freezing of the council's element of council tax for another 12 months. And it's once again in line with Conservative principles of sound financial planning. I said that with a small c, of course. However, what may not be welcomed as much by the people of Greater Manchester, and we in particular, is yet another increase in the mayoral precinct. This is the second year in a row that Andy Burnham has put his hand in the wallet of hard-working people across Greater Manchester to ensure that he fulfills his pledges. But what he's doing it with our money. He didn't say that in his campaign. But what I am particularly concerned about is that I accept the proposal that he's doing and what he's using it to fund it for. But what I am concerned about is something I didn't realise until we had the budget briefing, that there isn't a cap on the mayoral precept. So in actual fact, I know it has to go through the 10 leaders to be approved and all the rest of it, but as I said previously, now that GM is under the control of 10 Labour leaders, that's a bit like you making your own homework. So I am concerned about that, and I think that applies to all mayors. I'm not a fan of directly elected mayors, I never have been. I've not changed my approach to that. I would have voted against it if I'd had the opportunity to, if it had come before a referendum, but unfortunately the ex-Chancellor didn't allow us and afford us that opportunity, and perhaps that's why he's the ex-Chancellor and no longer in Parliament. So, we'll not be shedding any tears over that. So I personally want to see a cap introduced, and I will certainly be lobbying to ensure that we have a cap introduced, because what I am concerned about is with these directly elected mayors, and in the week that we saw Degzy try to return to the Labour Party, we can see who have been attracted to the Labour Party under the current leadership, and I want to make sure that people like that never ever get near power in a town hall, a parish hall, or government, because quite frankly they will destroy this country. And I know I'm not on my own in my view about that. I know many people in the Labour Party also agree with me. So Andy Burnham could have actually come to councillors to outline his plans and to say what he was going to do. But he's never done that in the 2 years since he's been elected, and I find that very disappointing. I know he's done a meet the mayor and all that kind of stuff to members of the public, but why is it to come to the 10 districts to explain to councillors what he's doing, to answer those questions, to have some accountability to us as elected members? And there is a precedent for that, because his predecessor Tony Lloyd did do it when he was Police and Crime Commissioner, when he was outlining his plans as Police and Crime Commissioner. So Andy could do that, and I think, and I hope that he will do that in the next 12 months. But there is an election next year, so I'm sure he will up his game on that in the next 12 months. And in relation to the budget proposals by the leader, he also welcomed the freeze on caretaking charges for the town centre, the need for a vibrant town centre, and it being a reason for people to come, shop and spend money is vital. Obviously, the blow that Marks and Spencers were moving away, I know is a tremendous loss to the town centre, and the continuing uncertainty regarding Debenhams nationally is extremely worrying. Collectively, we need to pull together to put the case to keep national name stores in our town centre, and the leader will certainly have my support on a cross-party approach to that, to lobby companies or whoever we need to lobby to ensure that we could get people invested in Wigan, because what I'm concerned about is that we get the best possible deal for Wigan, and I don't care who we talk to and who I talk to with to ensure that we get that possible deal. And that also includes local government finance and also the business rate proposals as well. So I know the leader and I have had numerous conversations about different things, and he knows that on things like that he's certainly got my full support, and I will do whatever I can to help him in his proposals and lobbying. So we all know about the success of the economy and growth, because of course that's what we need to do, and we do need to ensure that we encourage more businesses to invest in Wigan, and I know from the proposals that we've seen tonight that is certainly something that we are looking at. And I was also pleased to see the £10 million Town Centre Investment Fund announced today as well. Obviously, I'm reliably informed by my colleague that in 2016, whilst I wasn't here, they did propose a similar amendment to that, and the leader last year took my thoughts away on that, and I'm pleased to see now that that is now coming to fruition. So I'll give it a cautious welcome, because I've not seen the detail of it, and as we all know, the devil is in the detail, but I certainly give it a cautious welcome, and as long as it delivers on all our communities across the borough, and I know the leader has mentioned that those on the outside and periphery of our big town centres do sometimes feel left out, and we need to address their concerns. So, and I certainly look forward to working with him on that to ensure that that money gets where it needs to. It would be remiss of me to omit the Rugby World Cup. Congratulations to League on an absolute scandal that Wigan has not got a game in that tournament. But I hope that whenever it comes back that we do get one back in Wigan itself. And also the proposals on the A49 as well. It would be remiss of me to omit the fact that £10 million come from central government to help deliver on that project. And I also welcome the 3.3 million on potholes. And I know the leader mentioned the 1.7 million from the Chancellor, the highest in Greater Manchester as well. I was pleased to note when I was doing my research on that. So we welcome that extra investment that the leader is putting in. And I was also impressed with Councillor Anderson's commitment about youth early intervention funding and youth aspiration and engagement. And I look forward to having some conversations with Councillor Anderson about how that can impact on our wards. So I will be in touch very soon, Councillor Anderson, about that. In terms of I will move now to my amendment, Madam Mayor, if that's all right. What I would like to do, the proposal that's before us this evening, is to, I know the tender is out at the moment for Borough Life, £80,000. I know in the whole scheme of things, it's not an awful lot of money when we've got a budget the size that we have. But as a council and we are one of the great digital leaders in local government, why are we producing a booklet that goes through every single door? So we're paying to print this thing, and then we're paying for it to be distributed for every single door. We could cut out, Councillor Sweeney, we could cut out that blue bin then, so, because I suspect that Councillor Sweeney, that most of that goes directly in the blue bin. I would like to see how much of a review have we done on this, and do people actually read it? So for me, yes, I know you will say yes. Of course you will. However, I don't believe that we need to print this in this day and age. It's not important like the bin calendar. That's really important, and that does need to be produced and put through every person's door. Because a couple of years ago, you tried to get rid of that and keep Borough Life. So I want to see the bin calendar in paper form, but what I don't want is Borough Life in its current form. We could do it digitally, we could put it out, and let's really move it online. That's what I would do. And that money that currently is being spent on that would be much better put in all our Brighton Borough money and have an increase of £3,000 per ward that we could actually really put to some good use, which would help Councillor Reedy's SIP funding as well, because in certain wards we don't get a lot of funding, so that little bit will make a big difference to our community groups. And of course the final bit is the £1 million into improving our parks, open spaces and play areas. We get constant complaints as councillors about our parks aren't as good as neighbouring authorities. All these proposals are in line with the deal principles, moving things digitally, getting us active and ensuring that we're having a healthy lifestyle across the Wigan Borough. Madam Mayor, thank you very much and I now propose my amendment.
Spent a second, Madam Mayor.
Leader, do you accept the amendment to your motion?
No,
I will now move to the vote of the amendment.
No.
No.
Why I don't accept the amendment.
You want to reply, Leader?
Can I just ask Michael one question? Can I keep this reply for next year as well? Because it's a question that we get on a regular basis, certainly from that side of the chair. I think the Mayor actually gave you a little bit of licence in your summing up of the budget. Can I just say that people actually do read Borough Life? And when you say it's a waste of time printing it and delivering it through every door, I bet you don't take that stance in a few weeks' time when you're going around with your leaflets. I think you'll be hoping that everybody will read it. And I can assure you, certain parts of the world, they certainly don't. Can I just say that in a recent Review Independent survey actually showed that people appreciated the Borough Life. It was a big part of what they saw that the council should do and tell them what's going on. And in fact, the survey actually showed that 3/4 of the people who actually receive Borough Life read all of it. And one thing that it does do, in the what's on part of the Borough Life, tells what community groups, what charities are doing, what fundraising events are taking place, including MERS charity events, I may say, are also appreciated by the people who read Borough Life. And when you start to look, we actually deliver it to 144,000 properties, and it costs 19p per Borough Life. It's absolute excellent value for money. And the complaint we get about Borough Life is when people don't get it. That's the complaint that we get. That's the complaint that comes to us most. If we've missed a street out, missed an area out, they want to know why they don't get Borough Life. So that's one of the reasons why I've not accepted the amendment. Now on the other one, I took it really seriously about the parks. So much so that I got the government green paper on public parks. And there's been a recent campaign by a paper that I don't normally take, in fact I've never taken it live, called the Sunday Mail, about saving our, and I'm not sure whether it was politically motivated, but I think the Sunday Mail perhaps made it politically motivated. So much so that James Brokenshire MP made a statement on the 19th of February. 19th of February, he published the government's response for people who had contacted him about public parks. And he's responded. He's responded back. And he's allocated, because he's good at this, he's allocated 13 million to be spent on public parks and open green spaces. Some of it is already spoken for, it's going to the National Trust for Roots and Bird Doctors. And there's another 2.7 million which we announced in February, and the closing date was January, for people to apply for what they call the Pocket Parks Plus.
Not quite sure what that is, and I didn't find much about it within the Green Paper. So that leaves 19.7 million. Sorry, 9.7 million. It would have been better if it read 19, but it's not. It's 9.7 million to be spent by local authorities for public parks. There are 28,000 public parks in the UK. And what I'll pledge to Councillor Winston, all the government money we receive out of Jane Brookenshire's commitment for public parks, I will spend in Parks and Rec. Without doubt, it will be used, and we're very pleased that the government's announcing. And I'm sure that when we plant the bush in each of the parks for our share from the 9.7 million, I'm sure that you'll appreciate it being invited to the official planting. So can I just say, Madam Mayor, in view of the government funding, I reject the amendment, and therefore, thank you very much, Michael. We always enjoy it.
I will now move to the vote on the amendment and remind members to use the electronic voting system as the recorded vote must be taken for this item. So members, please vote no. And we're voting on the amendment. Thank you. That motion has not been passed. We are now back to the original motion. I will now move to the vote on the original motion and remind members to please use the electronic voting system. To speak on the original motion. Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure everyone would be pleased to know that even though our amendment didn't pass, that we will still be supporting the budget, as Councillor Winston said. The general principles of the budget are acceptable to us. And indeed, I would say that I know I was lightly teased by the Deputy Leader of the Council. I think this is the first budget, it is indeed the first budget that is the Deputy Leader of the Council. Lightly teased me over some issues earlier on. I would point out that I think I've voted for out of the last 6 budgets, I've voted for the Labour budget 5 of the last 6 times. I think the only other time I didn't, I was actually at the inquiry at the Sports Village overturning the then core strategy. Yes, I think that the general principles of this budget are indeed sound, as Councillor Winston would said. I would point out, as I've said, I've managed to support them on a number of occasions over the past 6 years. It's usually because, unlike many councils, I think, to be fair, credit needs to be given, that we've taken a reasonable approach to budgeting. And sometimes the speeches have been more hot-headed than the content of the budget. And I think this year, due credit should be given again, by and large, there has been very little invective indeed. And I do know that the Deputy Leader was only lightly teasing me. I would take the opportunity now, and I promised before on the Parliament to say, had I had the decision again, I would not vote that way. But I would point out, because it did make it rather sound like I alone was sat in front of the bulldozer stopping the demolition, that the families and residents at the time were also concerned about this. And we talked about deficits. But it was a different kind of deficit that I think was the problem, the circumstances there. It was a deficit of trust. Now, the interesting thing is, over the past few years, I think things have changed. And obviously we've mentioned Donna, and Donna, of course, is gone now. But what used to happen was, we used to do policy to people. And I think the thing that's changed since the deal came in is, we've gradually involved people more and more in things. And I think if we came along with something like the Pines now and said, oh, well, let's do this, I think we probably would get a warmer response. Because we've taken, over the time, when we put the deal into place, and I'm sure you'll remember I was an early opponent, and I did take, from some members of the opposition no longer with us, some serious stick over that, and I supported the deal. It has had a positive impact. We've seen people get involved. We've gone from people go, oh, waste of time, to, well, actually, yeah, we're actually making a difference by getting involved. And we've heard about things like the library, and I know there are colleagues from Goldman here that would say, oh yes, and indeed around our library, we've got agreements and done that up, we've got lender with loading. Well, man of people around this chamber that can say about how things have changed because of the deal, and the way we budgeted is a large part of that. And due credit must be given on that. But I do hope that credit will also be given to those members of the opposition who have been supported at some cost to that over the years. And just one final point on our rejected motion. I would say that with regards to the Borough Life magazine, it is something we do put in our leaflets that we should scrap it. We get very positive responses on it, because a lot of people don't read it. If it weren't popular, if it didn't keep coming up with our residents, we wouldn't keep bringing it up. And I would point out, once again, mentioning Donna, that during Donna's tenure as Chief Executive, the frequency and size of the Borough Life went down considerably. That it is no longer the great big monster that it was when it was first published, and I think they're better off for that. I do hope that in due course we will go fully digital with it. And with that, I will sit down, and as I say, you will have my support on this budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thunder. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the last couple of years, it's been really challenging me why the official opposition are so supportive on the budgets of this council. And it hit me today like a silver bullet. This is a Tory budget. To be fair to them, the deal is David Cameron's Big Society plan. Over the last 5 years, we've sold assets off for £14 million while making 700 people redundant. Is that the vision that Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party have? It's not, no. It's a Conservative budget. Now, I can never support a budget which spends 1p on the deal. And I'll tell you why, Madam Mayor. Although there's many good things in this budget, the health and social care, the work that we've done with the homeless, a deal, and it's very simple, a deal takes two people to agree. Now, I heard about how in London they think it's great, and I'm sure other councillors do and civil servants, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. Go out on that street and ask your average Joe what they think about the deal, and they laugh. Or they don't even know what it is. So how can we push something and say we're going on with the deal? The deal with who? The deal with yourselves. You're good at tapping yourselves on the back. But the deal is meant to be between ourselves and the people. The people do not hold this council in high esteem. Now, the deal originally was brought on by two individuals. One has now retired, and the other one has stepped down as leader. I was really hoping, leader, that you would stamp your authority, you would stamp your own legacy, start something fresh, not go along with the same old lame donkey that we've been doing year on year after year after. I can't understand it. It's not even the principles of the things in the deal. Let's talk about SIF funding. SIF funding. What an idea. What an idea. The principle is fantastic, but in practice, that's not what we're getting. We're getting organisations year after year, run by sometimes by Labour councillors, given hundreds of thousands of pounds. If you're a small community group who might be more open to voting opposition, you get absolutely nothing. I know that because before being a councillor, I was involved in them groups. It's all about who you know, not what you know when it comes to SIF funding. My second problem with SIF funding is a lot of the time we're doing nothing more but passing responsibility. We've seen it with the homeless. Instead of us getting involved and doing something, we give money to a community group or a charity and we let them do the work. And then we get on the photo-ops and say what a fantastic job we've done. So, Madam Mayor, I could never support anything with the deal. Well, my vote's not going to make much difference tonight, I know that. Second of all, I want to talk about something that's slightly controversial, which is the Great Gay Pride March. Now, I want to state on the record, absolutely, I have nothing against gay people, I have nothing against people of any colour of skin, I don't care. I support anybody to live the life that they want to. But I also am a Christian, and we do spend money on the budget. We will be spending money from the budget on Gay Pride again this year, and we did last year. Now, my problem, you see, Madam Mayor, is we're discriminating against other groups. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Saviour. We will not fund the police for the Sunday school walks. And what a beautiful thing they have always been. I took part in them as many other people did. What I want to see is us do something across the board or not for any. Like I said, it's nothing against LGBT or gay pride. I want to see us support more groups. Lastly, the reason the good spending and the management of money. I read an article this week about Cockerell. I don't know if anybody else has seen it. We're in such hard times, such big government cuts, that we held an investigation because one resident complained with sound device tracks to get the decibels of how loud this Cockerell was and took a woman to court over it. This is why you will never be the Curran Council. Never, ever, ever. And that's why, Madam Mayor, I happily, proudly vote against this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Greenland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, once again we're here to have a budget. Just upset about the criticism by the leader, SIF Fund, Councillor Bryan's going to have to do with this. Well, I don't even know what it is. I've never known, I don't know how to apply for training. But I'd love to get involved with it because we want some projects going in the green. Now the town centre, 10 million, fantastic. But yet, that development up there, can I ask the leader, why have you allowed a company to take away flags what cost £78 over 5 years ago, with no wear and tear on them, to come back and relay brand new flags identical to them? Why don't you just turn them upside down and power? There's two sides to a flag, and they go down on a base, a stand base. But yet, you're spending all this money down there. Why? I mean, and why is it being given outside of Wigan Borough to a company when we're looking after our residents, generating work for them, so they can pay the council tax to feed the family and support everything what we do? It just seems ludicrous to me. Anyway, we'll go on from that. Roads, potholes, an extra 3.5 million. Another fantastic thing. But why doesn't somebody repair a pothole correctly and seal the edges? In Ingley Green, they came along, they did the job. Now it's broke up again. Because in winter, the rain goes in the crack, the weather freezes, and then it expands and cracks the tarmac again. So can we have an assurance from the leader that proper work will be carried out? You know, especially in my ward, because I'm sick of it in bottles with my car. And, you know, and if any damage comes to it, you may get a bill. So, anyway, the airport, £5 million. Is that £5 million income? How many insurers have we got? No, I got told we only received £1 million. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. And regarding the Rugby League World Cup, it's been brought to my attention that we don't own Leeds Sports Village. So I'd like confirmation of that, please, from the Terry Ascension, that do we own it or do we not? Anyway, let's have a look at that. Anyway, going on to the deal. Well, the deal in 2009 was possibly created by me. I made reference. I'll buy my own snowplow. I'll buy my own gritter. And, you know, what did you do? Councillor Molyneux? You sold everything off. It made national papers, me. National papers on the news at 10. Councillor making reference to do a job that the council had sold everything off. And what did he do? He built that big storage thing because of me, because I highlighted what a stupid thing you did. We have winter every year. No, we've had a good winter, it's been sunshine, so we'll get rid of everything. But you've had anything on your face with that, right? And then, you know, it's ridiculous. AO. I told you about investment in AO. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I started off Friends of AO, and I cleaned up a crazy golf with 35 volunteers, all giving the free time up, and then once you were done, we had a donation. And what we did, we treated the kids. I bought lollipops. If a kid went round the golf course, free lollipop. Anyway, going back to saving money. On the legal, what's about the legal? The revenue. They need to be seriously looking into that. Domino's legal costs were paid by this council knowing a High Court judge said you'd not to pay them. £45,000 were paid, and I think this should seriously be investigated on the head of legal services, the monitoring officer, because he has authorised payment on that of public money, and it really needs a full investigation. And other things what's been paid for, it's absolutely ridiculous. They're all gave a young couple in Lee, rat-infested house, £2,000, no receipts. No questions asked. Here you go, £2,000.
Councillor Healy, I'm sorry you've run out of time.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
It's always a challenge when I'm there to follow Councillor Greeley and Councillor Jones, but I'll try. Councillor Jones made a political attack on the budget, which he's entitled to do, of course. He's entirely wrong with what he said. This is a very political budget. It is political because we care about the people of this borough. Everything that we've done as a Labour group has been to try and protect the interests of the people and the communities of Wigan Borough. And by and large, we've succeeded. As the Cabinet members outlined in their various portfolios, if you went to other authorities, you'd see what was going on, the devastation that was going on in many of their key services. The fact these aren't done. But we did it to protect them. But we did it not at the price of charging people, because we felt when austerity began, it wasn't just affecting local authorities, it was affecting people across the borough. And the easiest thing for some people to do would be actually put the council tax up. But we knew that wasn't the right thing, because people were actually paying money. The council tax actually affects poorer people much more than it affects people who are better off. And what we've done, if you think about it, another freeze of 6 years, as the leader said, on the freeze in the budgets. So this year, people in Wigan are paying an average of £50 a year less in council tax than they might in other Greater Manchester authorities. If you average that over 6 years, we're talking hundreds of pounds, £3 million. Actually, people have said it's real money, keep it in people's pockets. And I'm proud of the support we've had from Labour members to do that. It was actually that was the deal. The deal was not simply wanting people to get involved, which we did, and Councillor Reedy has done that so superbly well, but we wanted people to see that what our big part, one of our contributions was actually to say, and we'll try and freeze the council tax, and we've managed to do that for 6 years now. So I think that's really important.
Personal explanation, madam.
No, it's not an explanation.
Personal, it's for the emergency side. Personal, he was replying to myself. I was wrong, but yet everything's just yapped on about. I never made any comment about it.
You said, I'm sorry, you want to be political, I'll be political. Let's, you know, just take it as long as we try and give it out. Of course, we welcome the support for the budget for the Conservatives. I'm surprised tonight that, unlike Councillor Raymond, they didn't mention the stronger towns. I thought they'd be coming to say tonight, here we are, we do. And I want to welcome the stronger town in 2 ways, Councillor Raymond, I think. First of all, what the government's now admitting is that all the austerity since 2010 has impacted on places like Wigan, and it shouldn't have. So they're actually admitting their own policies have been wrong for places like Wigan. And secondly, in their proposed solution, they've added it, they say, we can't get equitable distribution of money unless we take account of deprivation. That's an ambition from the government. Councillor Evans said on the fair funding formula, they don't take account of deprivation, therefore we're going to lose more money. So they offer us the money, headline figure seems a lot, but if you think about it, it's £40 million a year for the whole of the North West. 40 million a year. Now, as we saw on the budget, we're losing 160 million directly in our own resources. And if Councillor Raymond is right, I'm sure that fair funding goes through, the same authorities will lose 390 million a year by the loss of deprivation. So, my goodness, it's some bribe, isn't it, if you're actually losing so much money. So, I think, and of course, Councillor Jones had the thing about gay pride. But, you know, I must hold it, but, here's the but, you know, don't do it, don't spend the money about it. But actually, it's quite justified.
I did not say don't spend the money. He's insinuating I'm against gay people by saying the word but. I never said that.
You did say but.
I said I know, but we shouldn't spend money on some but not others.
Councillor Jones.
But put him in his place.
Councillor Smith, please continue.
He said but. He said but. I was very careful. He said but. We knew there was going to be a but. And he said but. I mean, even if we just think of it as an economic activity, actually, the amount of generation of interest that Gay Pride March has is actually well worth it for that. But of course, it's more that's recognising people's status in life. And, you know,
Councillor Smith, I'm sorry, you've got much time.
But, Madam Mayor, I wouldn't have finished if he hadn't interrupted all this. I will sit down.
Sorry, Councillor Smith. Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points, really. James Grundy mentioned Borough Laugh, and we've had this debate over many years. It's the old chestnut which comes out. But I'd like to know who these people are who read a Tory leaflet but don't read Borough Laugh. I mean, I think that's going to be a really distinguished marker to find them people. Steve, Councillor Jones, I better get it right. I don't want to just kind of jump into Mr. Ferris's old thing. You know me, and I'm kind of a realistic person, and I'm trying to get on with most people. But I think some of the things you said about the SIT stuff and all that, that is close to my head. And you're right, there are some people out there who don't know what the deal is. Well, I'll be quite honest about that, because you'll never get everybody to know everything about whatever. But the amount of volunteers and everything out there, I think it's really against them that you're actually speaking up, because no, I think you are, because you're actually saying SIT's no good, it's politically motivated. I can tell you, I'm going to, no, it's not. I probably get more grief from Labour members about the SIT stuff and everything that goes on, because we've got to share it out. The problem we've got at the moment with SIT is we've not got enough money. So there is groups that we turn in and they're becoming to members all around here. We've just not got enough. I can't remember what the figure was, but it was 6 times people who bid for stuff that what the money we had. So it's really disturbing looking at, and you actually did prove me wrong with my speech, because I said this is the one thing that we all agree on, and actually you and Bob actually jumped in there, but maybe I should have said that, you'd have probably been alright there. I think you touched on the walking days, and my colleagues in Aspel, we fought, if you look back in papers, we fought tooth and nail when the police issue was pulled away, and it's something close to our heart. We fought it, we won it at first, and then, but what you've got to remember is, and probably Councillor Anderson, if you look at the policing, we've not got enough policing. The cuts have been devastating to the police, so the last thing they're going to do is martial walks. It works up hard way now, with volunteers and marshals from the churches. It actually works better than it used to do with the police. Don't get me wrong, we'd sooner have the police back and say shit, but we're not going to get there. So with the police cuts, that's not going to happen. It's not going to come back in, and if it did, would we want the police in our communities, on the beat in our areas, or do you want to march on a walking day where we can actually do that ourselves? It's a reality, we've not got that anymore. The cuts have been absolutely cut us back to the bone with the police. They've been offered more police in our batteries, and I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll see where that is. But I am disappointed that you've kind of gone on the sixth element of it is, but that's your thoughts on it. What I will say is, if you want, I'll take you around to some of the groups, and you can go and meet them. And if you want to go to Fairclem, you want to go to the Break, you want to go wherever, places in Leigh, do that. I'll show you and you'll speak to them. Alright, you might say they've had funding, but there are people who are not politically motivated, who work in the community day in, day out for the good of this borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, your name's come up. I'm sorry, you asked.
I think it was when I did the explanation, I pressed it by accident.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Leader, do you wish to sum up on your motion?
It's been a long night, so I'm not going to keep you too long. The point of the fact of the matter is, and Councillor Smith was right, when we set out to do what we did with the deal and what we've done with the budget, it's because we fully understand that a lot of people in this borough are on low incomes. The biggest impact of taxation on their pocket is the community charge and council tax that they pay. And it's only right that we do our best to defend those people the best we can. Now, I'm never going to convince Councillor Jones, Councillor Jones or Councillor Greeley that the deal of SIF is right. I'm never going to do that. I'll stand here all night. I'm still not going to convince them. But the vast majority of people in this borough know it's right. And to say you don't know about SIF, I don't know where you've been hiding. Because the number of requests we get for SIF funding, and the number of emails we get, and the number of inquiries we get, shows that people know about SIF.
Point of information, where he's pointing out that where the SIF is. I am not on the system. I don't receive...
Councillor Wheeler.
Councillor Molyneux.
Councillor Wheeler.
You should know that.
Well,
Councillor, just one moment, Leader, please. Councillor, could you just let the Leader finish what he has to say? Leader.
Thank you, Annabeth. It's quite extraordinary that that statement's been made. Because the number of presentations that we've had prior before budget meetings in the past, where people have come and talked about SIF, and people from SIF have sat there in front of where you're sat, surprises me somewhat that you didn't notice them. All I'm saying, Madam Mayor, is that we know it works. People from outside this borough know it works. And what I'm saying is, the reason why other opposition members perhaps support the budget is because they know we're trying to do the right thing for the people who we all represent. This is about delivery for all. This is a budget for all. And I'm asking this council chamber tonight to support the budget. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I will now move to the vote on the original motion.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, can I have a point of information, please?
What is your point of information?
That I don't receive information at all, either it's SIF or whatever. I get nothing. I am not on the system. And I've not been on the system since 2014. So, I'm sorry, but Councillor Mullin, you're incorrect. When everybody should know about this system. And I didn't call it. Thank God, I just asked Councillor Reilly, I'll be in touch with you. But apply for it, because we got...
Councillor Greeley.
Yes,
Councillor Greeley. Are we going to move to the vote? Because on this item what you're speaking about, you do get it through your manager mailbox. So we will now move to the vote. I will now move to the vote on the original motion. Sorry? Councillor Hannawell.
It was just a point of information, Madam Mayor. You don't have to be on the system to know about Borough Life. Everybody knows about Borough Life. Everybody knows about SIF. It's in the Borough Life. Not only is it in the Borough Life, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter. It's all over the place. I don't know where it's been.
I will now...
I think, Councillor, you're all over the place. Everybody knows about the Borough Life. I mean...
everybody knows we can't get it. I will now move to the vote on the original motion. First, to please use the electronic voting system, as a recorded vote must be taken for this item. Members, please vote no. That motion is carried. That concludes the business before us tonight. Thank you for your attendance and the same adjourned.